Learned delegates, respected teachers, and beloved students. Very good morning to everyone. Welcome to the 16th Informatics Endowment Lecture on Digital Library. The theme of this endowment lecture is Knowledge or Organization in the Digital Era, Issues, Challenges, and Approaches. As part of a cultural tradition, we begin the event by seeking the blessing of the divine. Let us commence the lecture by seeking the blessings of Goddess Saraswati. Ms. Anisha T. Hebbar from Fine Arts College, University of Mysore, will lead the invocation.
जय जगदीश्वरी माता सरस्वती जय जगदीश्वरी माता सरस्वती शरणागत प्रतिपादनहारिणी शरणागत प्रतिपादनहारिणी जय जगदीश्वरी माता सरस्वती मधुर विलासी सामगीत ध्वनि मधुर विलासी जगदीश्वरी माता सरस्वती श्वेतवसनं कमलं श्वेतवसनं जय जगदीश्वरी माता सरस्वती ब्रह्मानंद ब्रह्मा जय जगदीश्वरी माता सरस्वती शरणागत प्रतिपा जय जगदीश्वरी माता सरस्वती धन्यवाद।
Thank you, Ms. Anisha T. Abbar and Ananya for creating the heavenly atmosphere. Professor N.S. Harinarayana, Chairperson, Department of Studies in Library and Information Science, University of Mysore, will formally welcome the dignitaries now.
Good morning, all of you. Dignitaries of the dais and of the dais, my students, research scholars, invitees, and friends. It is my pleasure to stand before you today at the 16th Endowment Lecture on Digital Libraries. This occasion will be marked as a significant milestone in the history of the Department of Studies in Library and Information Science, affectionately known as MyDLIS or MIDLIS. This program is being streamlined online live through YouTube channel. The value of information cannot be overstated in modern society, and having access to it is a crucial success in many areas. The effective organization of information is essential, is where the concept of knowledge organization comes into play. This involves various tools and techniques such as taxonomies, control vocabularies, metadata, and so on, that are used to systematically organize information. While traditionally the responsibility of librarians, information professionals, and philosophers, the field is undergoing substantial changes due to the advancement of technology. Automation through artificial intelligence, machine learning, and language modeling technology is becoming increasingly common. Today, we are excitedly anticipating Professor Raghavan's presentation, in which he will discuss the issues, challenges, and approaches to the knowledge organization in the digital era. On this occasion, I'm happy to talk about the Department of Studies in Library and Information Science, which is a birthplace and an alma mater to me. The Department of Library and Information Science at the University of Mysore was established in 1965 with the introduction of bachelor's degree program and a faculty of 2 full-time professors. The department has since grown to include the master's degree program and a PhD program in 1976. In 1991, a 2-year master's degree program was introduced, combining the bachelor's and master's degrees into one integrated program. The model introduced by the University of Mysore's Department of Library and Information Science has been followed by other LIS departments in Karnataka, illustrating the department's leadership and influence in the field. The curriculum is designed to prepare the students to be successful librarians and information and knowledge managers in the digital era. The program focuses on practical application and problem solving with a relatively low weight given to the classroom teaching. Overall, the Department of Library and Information Science at the University of Mysore has a strong commitment to staying at the forefront of the field through continuous curriculum innovation and development. The success of our training program is evident in the fact that our alumni have achieved many prestigious positions within national organizations in India, showcasing the impact and influence of our department. Let me say a few words about the informatics endowment lecture. The Informatics Endowment Lecture Series on Digital Libraries is an annual event organized by the Department of Studies in Library and Information Science at the University of Mysore. It is instituted by Informatics India Limited, Bangalore, and has been held annually since 2001. The informatics is owned by Sri N.V. Satyanarayana, who is amongst us now, who is an science. Over the years, the lecture series has brought together some of the most renowned experts in the field of digital libraries, information technology, and related areas to share their insights and knowledge with attendees. I want to put it on record that the Endowment Lecture Series on Digital Library was brought to the department with the efforts of the most revered Professor Dr. Shalini RRS. We remain indebted to her service to the department in particular. Informatics Endowment Lecture Series at the department has been a platform for experts to discuss cutting-edge developments and share insights in the field of digital libraries, information technologies, and related areas. The Informatics Endowment Lecture Series on Digital Libraries is an important platform for professionals, researchers, students in the field of library and information science to stay up to date with the latest development and advancement in digital libraries and related areas. The event provides a unique opportunity for attendees to interact with and learn from experts in the field, and also engage in discussions and debates on various topics. I would like to express my pleasure in performing another task before we begin today's program. It is my honor to warmly welcome our distinguished guests, both on and off the dais. With your permission, I will aim to fulfill this responsibility concisely, respecting the value of time of all attendees. It is a great honor to introduce Professor Muzaffar Hussain Asadi, who is currently serving as Vice Chancellor of the University of Mysore. At the outset, I have to admit, creating a biopic of Professor Asadi was no easy task. With 125 pages of biodata to sift through, it was a real challenge to condense all his remarkable accomplishments into a concise and engaging presentation. But as we all know, sometimes the most difficult things are also most rewarding. And I believe that in the end, we were able to create a truly impressive and compelling portrayal of Professor Asadi's life and work. Of course, it has always been possible that we may have missed something in the process of trying to keep things succinct. But I can assure you that we did not, we did our very best to do the justice to this remarkable individual. Professor Asadi is a renowned academician who has held several important positions in his illustrious career. Professor Asadi has a PhD in politics of peasant movement in Karnataka and postgraduate in globalization and media. He has an MA in political science and BA in history, economics, and political science. In addition to his work at the University of Mysore, Professor Asadi has held visiting and professorial positions at various institutes, including Russian State University for Humanities, Pondicherry University, Al Takwain Sultanate of Oman. Professor Asadi has also served in several administrative positions, including head of the Department of Political Science, director of Gandhi Bhavan, and dean of Faculty of Law at the University of Mysore. Professor Asadi has received several awards and recognitions, including Karnataka Sahitya Academy Award in 2011, APJ Kalam Millennium Best Teacher Award in 2017, and so on and so forth. His publication profile is highly impressive. He has 308 research articles, 62 articles in edited volumes, participated in 300 national conferences and 38 international conferences, and has delivered several special lectures and endowment lectures at various universities and institutions. Finally, Professor Asadi has served as a resource person for different workshops, conferences, seminars, and symposia at various institutes. He has addressed a wide range of issues related to contemporary India, such as globalization, agrarian crisis, farmers' suicide, identity politics, caste and Indian politics, social movement, Gandhism, human rights issues, caste and reservation, secularism, and terrorism, among others. I wholeheartedly welcome you, sir, on behalf of the department, myself, and let me present to you the distinguished academician and scholar, O.T.S. Raghavan, who has held various prestigious positions throughout his illustrious career. He is currently serving as member secretary of the Sarada Ranganathan Endowment for Library Science. Previously, he was a visiting scientist at the Center for Knowledge Analytics and Ontological Engineering, a World Bank project at PES University in Bangalore. Professor Raghavan has been invited to speak at several conferences and events, including the Conference on Social Epistemology and Theoretical Foundation for Information Science at the Royal School of Library and Information Science, University of Copenhagen. He has also served as a visiting professor at the School of Communication and Information and Nanyang Technological University, Singapore, and at the School of Information Science, Federal University of Minas Gerais. I don't know how to pronounce it properly.
Minas Gerais.
Okay,
Land of mines.
so take it from him. Previously, Professor Raghavan has held several notable positions, including professor and head of the Department of Library and Information Science, University of Mysore, Madras, from 1989 to 2005. He has also been a senior Fulbright Fellow at the Graduate School of Library and Information Science, University of California at Los Angeles, and a British Council visiting scholar also. Professor Raghavan's academic expertise is also evident through his various editorial work. He is currently chief editor of Searle's Journal of Information Management and has been a member of editorial board for knowledge organizations since 2012, Libris since 2014, Libri between 2003 and 2007, and among other journals. It is a privilege to have Professor K.S. Raghavan among us today, and we look forward to learning from his vast knowledge and experience in the field. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in extending a warm welcome to our esteemed guest, Professor K. Raghavan, who will be delivering today's endowment lecture. I would like to briefly introduce Professor M.A. Sridhar. He is an extraordinary scientist, researcher, academician. Sridhar M. Anand Alwar is a professor of physics at the University of Mysore. He was born in 1965, and Dr. Sridhar has an impressive academic background, having obtained BSc from Government College Hassan and MSc from University of Mysore and PhD from University of Mysore. His doctoral thesis was titled Crystal Structure Studies of Materials of Biological and Medical Interest, and his guide was the former Vice Chancellor, Professor J. Shishidhar Prasad. Dr. Sridhar has extensive teaching experience and has taught various courses such as condensed matter physics, mathematical methods of physics, numerical methods, quantum mechanics, thermal physics, and basic programming in C, Python, Perl, and Pascal, among others. Apart from his academic commitment, Dr. Sridhar has held several responsibilities at the University of Mysore. He is currently a member of the Academic Council, National Educational Policy Implementation Committee, and chairman of the Admission, Information, Regulation and Implementation Committee. He was also a chairman of the Board of Studies in Physics, Department of Physics, University of Mysore from 2017 to 2019, and chairman of the Department of Studies in Physics from 2017 to 2019. Dr. Sridhar has received numerous awards, including Sir C.V. Raman Young Scientist Award from the Government of Karnataka in 1996. He is a life member of the International Liquid Crystal Society and International Crystallological Association. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct honor to welcome the highly distinguished and accomplished Dr. Sridhar M. Anand Alwar to our event today. With his impressive academic credentials and significant contributions to the field of physics, Dr. Sridhar has truly set himself apart as a leader in his field. His work on crystal structure studies of materials of the biological and medical interest has been widely recognized and celebrated. It is truly a privilege to have Dr. Sridhar with us today. We look forward to hearing more from him. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Sridhar. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce to a man who is true pioneer in the field of information services and product development. He is none other than Sri N.V. Satyanarayana, the founder director of Informatics India Limited, a leading information products and services company established in 1980. The whole LA's profession calls him fondly and affectionately as Satya. Although it is inappropriate to refer him like that in a public event like this, I would still continue to refer him as Satya, as it gives me a sense of informal camaraderie with such an esteemed personality. Satya started his career as a librarian and worked in different institutions and agencies such as Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, HMT, SKF for 7 years before promoting his brainchild Informatics. Under his leadership, Informatics pioneered the introduction of international online access in 1984 and was the first to introduce the and market CD-ROM technology products in India in 1988. Satya's contributions to the information professional are numerous. He has served as a member of working group of content creation and content industry of the National Task Force on Information Technology and Software Development set up by the Office of the Prime Minister of India. He has also been a member of various committees and boards, including the Program Advisory Committee of NISAT sponsored project entitled Establishment of Vignan Server and Internet School at Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. Satya is a recipient of Young Information Scientist Award in 1991 by the Society of Information Science and has been associated with many professional and academic activities in the information profession. He is an honorary visiting professor in the Department of Studies in Library and Information Science, University of Mysore, Mysore, and has been the member of editorial board of CD-ROMs in print for 2 years, 1990 and 91. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the Chairman and Managing Director of Informatics, N.V. Satyanarayana, a man whose contribution to the field of information services and product development have been immense and invaluable. Dear esteemed guests and attendees, it is with great pleasure and gratitude that I extend a warm welcome to each and every one of you who have graced us with your presence today. Please accept my sincerest apologies for not being able to welcome you individually as I would have liked to do so. However, I assure you that your presence is deeply appreciated and valued. In this program, I recognize that the time is of the essence and that your participation and engagement are paramount. Therefore, I would like to take this opportunity to collectively welcome all those who have joined us both in person and virtually to partake in this event. To our esteemed members of the press who have always been the integral part of our journey and continue to support us, I extend special welcome. With your presence and coverage of this event will undoubtedly amplify our. Thank you for your participation and unwavering support. Let us together make this program a resounding success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your sincere welcome and creating the appropriate environment for exchanging knowledge. Dr. K.S. Raghavan, former professor, University of Madras and Documentation Research and Training Center, Indian Statistical Institute, Bengaluru, will address the gathering on knowledge of range.
Yes.
Do you still have that much of time, or do I forget? You have to check with Vice Chancellor, and I don't know how busy he is. Anyway, if I Idea is a whole quarter. Or respected Professor Sadi, President of this function, Vice Chancellor of the University of Mysore. Professor Veena. My good friend N.V. Satyanarayana, Professor Satyanarayana, distinguished members of faculty, students. I deem it a great privilege to have been asked to deliver this lecture being organized by the Department of Library and Information Science of the University of Mysore. Coming to this department is like homecoming for me. I graduated from the school and then I taught for 6 years before I went to Chennai, the University of Mysore. So it's always a pleasure for me to come back to this department where I was meeting. Please, Harinarayana sent me also a list of the distinguished speakers who delivered lecture, and really some of the names outstanding. Oh, I deserve this honor to be invited to give this particular endowment lecture being organized by the department. This lecture series is named as the Endowment Lecture, Informatics Endowment Lecture on Digital Libraries. So when he first asked me, I said, I really am not confident to talk on digital libraries. That's not my area, nor do I know anything about digital libraries. So he suggested that I speak on knowledge organization in the digital era. And that's how I stand before you. Knowledge organization in the digital era. What are the issues? What are the challenges? And what are the new approaches are being proposed, adopted in overcoming, addressing some of these challenges and issues? Knowledge organization is a subdiscipline of library and information science. So primarily, what are we concerned with in knowledge organization? We are concerned with describing information resources of all kinds, cataloging, indexing, classification, tagging, and then organizing information to facilitate search and retrieval. So this is something that is widely being practiced in libraries, archives, and other information institutions for a very long time, at least since the middle of the 19th century. When we look at it as a discipline, it also includes building knowledge organization systems, which include a range of tools such as classification schemes, SRI, ontology, and so on and so forth. And what actually are the theoretical principles that govern developing such tools? However, in a much broader sense, we can define knowledge organization as a domain in which the heuristics of ordering knowledge is spread. So it has its origin in philosophy, epistemology, and we library and information professionals have originally drawn from these disciplines in developing knowledge organization systems. However, there is one fundamental difference between these two approaches, that is the approach of philosophers to knowledge organization and information library and information professionals to knowledge organization. For philosophers, it was essentially an intellectual exercise in mapping and ordering knowledge. Whereas in the case of library and information science, it is an area of application. We have to apply it to physical artifacts. That is how it developed, to order them in logical fashion to facilitate browsing. Dr. Ranganathan called as the Akupa. So this practical goal, despite the fact that it is a discipline, it is a theoretical, it has a very strong theoretical base. The most important factor that needs to be kept in mind is that it is the application, that it must be something that will support search and retrieval of information. That is the most important. So knowledge organization doesn't have an existence. It has, it is no role in organizations to support retrieval of information, organizing information, search and retrieval. Then knowledge organization as a domain will not have any real future. So this is very important for us to keep in mind, that it is an application area, and the objective of all theoretical research organization should essentially be to support and enhance quality of information retrieval. It's a big area, very large area. So what I will try to do in this particular talk is to give you an overview of different approaches to knowledge organization, identify some of the major issues and tasks in the present day, where how the digital era has actually changed, affected knowledge organization, and what is expected of knowledge organization in the present digital era, and how the traditional knowledge organization systems are unable to cope with this present demand placed on them by the digital era developments. And then we briefly look at some of the new approaches that are being experimented with. Some of them are really working, but there is still a lot of research that is going on in this particular area. So as we move, the information world moves from print on text to print on paper, largely textual media, to digital resources, which includes multimedia also. How actually the some of these new approaches from print and paper to digital resources. It is useful for us to recall some of the basic objectives. These things have really not changed. We will redefine this in the context of the digital era. The objectives with which knowledge organization systems were developed, which began roughly in the first half of the 19th century to classify information objects, information entities, concepts, products, etc. And establish association between concepts, information objects, information products, and to define the principles that should govern these. All these, as I said, we should not lose sight of the fact that basic purpose is to enhance the quality of information retrieval. If we redefine these objectives in the context of the digital era, in the digital context, which is characterized by information overload, the most important characteristic of the digital era is the information overload and of course the variety, the diversity. The objectives could be restated as below. One, to categorize information objects in such a way as to achieve acceptable levels of recall and precision. And such response time in response to, of course, a query. To facilitate navigation to related concepts, which I feel is a very, very important function in the context of the present day world. And to be able to rank this again is because of the information overload. Traditionally, this was not one of the important functions of library classification cataloging systems. To rank retrieved information objects in an order of decreasing relevance to the query or the information need. Although there is a difference between information need and information. So these are some of the things that we can look at. A little bit of history is not entirely out of place. Roughly, developing formal systems for knowledge organization began with Candice. Candice was an lawyer who was in charge of the British Museum library, and he developed the famous what is known as the 91 rules for cataloging, which was the basis and became the basis for the British Museum catalog book developed. And then later in the 19th century, Cutter and Dewey developed their own system, the rules for dictionary catalogs by Cutter and his expansive classification, which became the basis for the Library of Congress classification. Although not many of us know that expansive classification of Cutter was the basis for present day LC classification. It was. And then Dewey developed his own Dewey Decimal classification system, coupled with the relative index, which is again a very, very important part of it. Like the last decade of the history, gives me a lot of freedom. In the last decade of the 19th century, the FID came into being under a different name, so, and it started building universal decimal classification on the basis of Dewey Decimal classification. These are some of the early efforts at developing formal systems for knowledge organization in libraries, archives, and similar institutions. There are various ways in which you can classify approaches to knowledge organization. One is to look at who does that. How do you organize knowledge? It's essentially human intellect-based approaches you can have. Human intellect-based approaches to knowledge organization. And the second one is machine-based approaches. You have machine-based approaches which began developing sometime during the middle of the 20th century, IBM. But the base was developed even in the 19th century. I mean, it was not something that was being thought of by library classification specialist, but this system, machine-based systems were developed during the middle of the 20th century. There is one other way of looking at the classification of knowledge organization system. A pragmatic approach. A number of examples can be given for this. Dewey's decimal classification adopted this pragmatic approach. He looked at decimal numbers. There were 10, 0 to 9, and therefore he divided the entire universe into 10 classes. 10 classes with 0 as the generalia class, and so on. You have many other systems which can fit into this pragmatic approach, including the one developed by Garfield of the Institute for Scientific Information. Now it is not ISL, but for his projects, especially current contents, he developed a classification system which will come under pragmatic approach to knowledge organization. Hazard analytic approach was something that was pioneered by Dr. Endowment in India and developed, extended by the classification research group in England, and also by the semantic factory, a team of researchers in the Western Reserve University in the United States of America. I would like to call the third approach as cognitive approaches. These are essentially based on how users look for information, how do they seek information, and we have very important contributions here. Inversion, Belkin's asked hypothesis, anomalous state of knowledge. There are others who have made significant contributions to this particular approach. The domain analytic epistemological approach is a more recent one, pioneered by Dr. Dahlberg of Germany, who also founded the International Society for Knowledge Organization. It has been in recent years, given a lot of importance, at least in theoretical research by Dr. Orland and Richard Smiralian. A knowledge organization system that is not based on what a document is about. All the other approaches that we have seen, they are based essentially on aboveness. What is a piece of information about? What is it about? What is the subject? But one approach that is not based on aboveness is the bibliometric approach based on citations, co-citations, etc. Also developed by Garfield, but it's not entirely. There was some earlier work by I forget his Shepherd Legal Citation Index, who developed this kind of a system for law, but it was popularized by Eugene Garfield and his Science Citation Index, Social Science Citation Index, etc., in the Institute for Scientific Information. The most important approach, however, today, the most dominant approach is the information retrieval approach. I just call that as the information retrieval approach. This has largely been pioneered and developed by computer scientists, mainly by computer scientists. So, as Peter Lund of IBM initiated some work in this particular area in the mid-20th century, the work carried forward by Spark Jones, Gerald Salton, and a large number of other very important contributors. In recent years, however, this work has been being carried forward by a series of conferences known as text retrieval conferences. Right? This is a very, very important forum today for discussion, research, advancement in this particular area of knowledge organization. We'll talk a little more about this towards the end. There are other ways of also some more classification or approaches to knowledge organization that are predominant today. Publisher or user-generated metadata. So the metadata schemas for authors, publishers, providing the pre-publication metadata like doubling code, etc. Again, not something entirely new. This is the idea was suggested by Dr. Ranganathan as early as in the 1950s, and it was implemented by the Library of Congress under a scheme and a plan program known as cataloging at source. And it is still being continued for in US elsewhere, under the title cataloging in publication data. But today we have many standards like Dublin Core, encoded archival description, many other schemas are there for different types of resources. And the last one I would like to mention, which will also come under this, is again user-generated metadata, folksonomy, end user attack. I should include here publisher user-generated metadata. I would also should have added author-generated metadata because it is standard practice today for authors to give assign keywords to their documents whenever they publish something. This, as I said, the information retrieval approach is the most predominant approach today. And it is characterized by the fact that it is skeptical of all human intervention. So the work of identifying, extracting metadata is entirely done by the machine, the computers. So it is skeptical of all forms of human interpretation, indexing, and classification. So the basic assumption with which Bloom started is that the text itself contains all the necessary data for its indexing, search, and retrieval. So it's based largely or almost entirely on information metadata extraction. So the come under this, which are the focus of research today, are being continuously refined to improve the quality of information extraction. I think, in fact, the most recent lecture by Professor Moss was on information extraction at the library technology conclave that was held at Ashoka University, Delhi. The focus was on information. The techniques are being improved using natural language processing, the developments in natural language processing, and of course, some standard techniques as well. For large bibliographic databases, even in the last quarter of the 20th century, the dominance following as they came place. And as I told you, this is being carried forward by the text retrieval conferences. What actually happened was, because of these developments, beginning the last decade of the 20th century, research on traditional classification, knowledge organization systems, now particularly subject classification system, lost influence. There was not so much, there is work going on, but it's not the information retrieval approach. What characterizes the IR approach is that apart from information extraction to index a document, they also focus, there is a lot of work that has been done going on supplementing indexing with enhanced search features. For example, if you look at the Boolean AND operator, now it has been extended using the proximity operators. It's an extension of and OR has been extended using truncation, so on and so And there are also efforts to compute the relevance of a document, where how relevant a particular document to the search query based on different kinds of approaches. Primarily, all of them are based on word frequency. Word frequency is one of the most important characteristics that is used. Okay. Now, if we look at these systems, the traditional knowledge organization systems, as we can call them mostly, they have largely been concerned with handling semi-structured data, formal channels of communication, books, journals, theses, so on and so forth. What happened when the digital era is that it necessitated fresh approaches to knowledge organization. Kind of the things that changed. There were so many changes that took place, which necessitated fresh approaches to knowledge organization. We will look at some of these things. To begin with, of course, in the very early years of the internet era, they tried to apply the same techniques that are being applied to informational libraries to the internet also. In fact, there was a small group of university libraries in the United States of America, which among themselves divided the work of cataloging and indexing internet resources, new internet systems. You focus on a particular discipline, we will focus on some other discipline. Simply it did not work. It did not work. There were failed efforts to catalog internet resources. And there were also, of course, search engines that were developed, like, for example, Yahoo, which adopted more or less the same kind of approach which traditional library classification systems adopted. Like Yahoo was essentially hierarchical in nature. The explosion in the number of web pages, as I said, the information overload broke the back of these systems. Simply, they couldn't cope with the information overload because they relied primarily on human intellectual effort. So when the volume increased, the results became typically poorer, correspondingly poorer, and also the gap between a resource being published and it getting indexed, all these things actually widen. So what actually are the major points of departure when we compare the digital era to the pre-digital era? So if we look at knowledge organization today, we need knowledge organization, then it has to first of all overcome information overload, especially in the form of unstructured data. Unstructured data, the large number of emails and so on and so forth. And represent information in a way that is searchable, retrievable, and reusable. And handle digital resources, also handle digital resources whose principal constituent is not necessarily text. Okay, these are some of the three major changes that have taken place in the digital era, and knowledge organizations will have to cope with this. Now, just to give you an idea of the sort of things, this is a screenshot from the Reuters, which is an international news agency. All of you are familiar. And what you have, is there a pointer here?
Yes.
You see that I'm just looking at the content types in this particular screenshot. I'm just looking at now the type of content that the writer news agency, video, picture, of course, text is always there, graphics, audio, etc., etc. So many things. Now, this is a big shift from the pre-digital era, where the focus was primarily on text print on paper, that's largely textual data. You can also look at the kind of coverage that, if we look at the topics that are being covered, covers practically every aspect: sports, science, technology, human interest, name it, everything, business and finance, politics, health, all kinds of topics are being covered when we come to this is just one agency, the news agency known as Reuters, where the reporters keep streaming in information digitally from around the world, and these need to be organized. These need to be classified, organized, so that we can search and retrieve the right kind of information that we want. We may want information related to share market. We may be interested in information related to sports, in particular cricket or baseball, whatever it might. So there are things. To give you an idea of the volume, writers, reporters, on an average, send about 2 million stories, news stories every year, and 1.5 million newsletters. This is, remember, all these pictures and images, about 800,000 best pictures and images, video stories, expert views on various aspects, etc. Investigative reports, about 100 and all investigative. Now, remember, we are talking about just one particular agency, one particular source of digital information, the one generator of digital information. Now, if you take into consideration the whole world, so many news agencies, universities, etc., are all there, and how much of information. Now, clearly, it is impossible for human beings to manually classify, catalog, index, assign tags to all these items of information. This information overload, one of the fundamental differences between the digital era and the digital era, which has necessitated the use of machines, computers, for handling and organizing information. Okay. However imperfect it may. The context in which knowledge organization has to be performed, that has also expanded in digital era. Earlier, knowledge organization was thought of largely in the context of libraries and archives, but not anymore. Corporations, governments, hospitals, and other kinds of institutions have begun realizing how important access to information is. Like, if you take Microsoft or IBM or even Infosys. Now, much of the information that is generated in these organizations, internally generated in these organizations, is unstructured in nature, in the form of emails, blogs, reports submitted by various people, so on and so forth. Now, these need to be indexed because they contain very valuable information, but these need to be indexed, made searchable and retrievable because they contain extremely valuable information. So analyzing and extracting useful information in tens of thousands of memos, emails, reports, etc., is a huge task, which is very difficult to perform manually. And also these keep changing. Now that's one other very important characteristic of the digital era. When something is printed, an article or a book is printed, the content does not change. Whereas in the context of a web page, for example, or in the context of the digital era, the content continuously keeps changing. So even if you index it today, tomorrow there may be a new web page. The web page content might have changed completely. That's another very important point of departure when we compare the pre-digital era with the digital era. So we recognize that these things are extremely difficult for manual systems or traditional knowledge organization systems to work on. So, of course, this particular problem of information overload has been in existence, even with reference to scholarly communication, at least since in 1970, when traditional databases of scholarly literature, the INSPECT databases or the chemical abstract services, biological apopiosis, so on and so forth, began shifting to automated indexing based on information extraction, keyword, key phrases extracted from the text, abstract, or author supplied keywords, so on. As I said, this approach is the dominant approach. The information retrieval approach to knowledge organization became the dominant approach to organizing knowledge, at least since the acid rain studies. Now, just as an trial experiment, let us look at today's newspaper and try assigning class numbers or subject headings to articles that have appeared in today's newspaper using any one of the traditional classification systems. We will practically fail doing. It just will not be possible for us to assign labels to news stories in today's newspaper. Unless we extract them from the source itself, it will just not be possible to use a conventional classification system or thesaurus or list of subject headings, whatever it might be, to assign labels to items that appear in a newspaper article today. It's very difficult to do. So when writers, reporters stream in articles, first of all, the machine should be able to identify what this news item relates to. Is it sports or politics, banking, commerce, defense, art, technology, share market, what is it about? And then if it is sports, what sport is, etc., etc. All these things will have to be identified by the machine. As I said, it's not possible to do it. It's possible, but it's so time consuming. By the time we get to do it manually, it will be worthless. So traditional systems like the ones that I've listed here are suitable for library collections, but fail when it comes to other kinds of collections, such as the one we are looking at in the digital age. The most important thing is that systems must accommodate the scale at which they must operate. They need to be able to classify, index, and search collections of size in the order of billions of words, records, large, and the range of material resources from which to extract needed information. Also, the email, balance sheets, hospital patient records, crime records, images. We did a piece of work for the voluntary health services hospital in Chennai. One particular department, the Department of Neurosurgery, and we built a retrieval system, a database of all the patient records of that particular department, that particular hospital, that particular department, only patients of the neurosurgery department. And we found it practically impossible to make use of any of the, including the medical subject headings. It was difficult for us to accommodate the sort of labels that we actually needed to index, label those patient records. We also did some work for the Department of Police department. One of the students did it on crime records. The police were quite certain that the kind of theft that takes place, certain people specialize in certain kinds of theft, like people who steal water pumps, for example, they specialize only in stealing that. So we looked at crime records, try to index and build some kind of a database. Again, conventional systems of knowledge organization that we found them to be extremely inadequate because they are not equipped, updated soon enough to be able to accommodate new concepts, the kind of things that are actually emerging and developing. So the major current concerns in knowledge organization, therefore, are not related to arranging information objects, which was what it was when Dewey developed his system or Ranganathan developed his system. How to logically order books on the shelves of it. That was a primary concern, but it is no longer that. The main concerns are automatic categorization, identify the class to which it belongs, what category it belongs. Is it sport? Is it cricket within sport? Women's cricket? Or IPL? All sorts of things we need to understand a text enough to identify the entities, concepts, etc. associated with it. And then adequate description of information resources, labeling the items to support retrieval that should be achieved by the knowledge organization system today. And clear and more explicit specification of relations between concepts. This is another area where we need traditionally classification systems have identified what we call as hierarchical relations. Hierarchical relations, is a relation. Vision is a verb. Vision is a verb, is a relationship. And to some extent, what Ranganathan called as array relation, coordinate relation. Several went one step further and then they added, in addition to hierarchical relation, broader and narrower terms, they went one step further and added what they call as associative relations. But these again are very, very limited. We need to be able to specify exactly the kind of relation between two concepts, two entities, etc. Like Professor Sridhar is the supervisor of so and so. And so is a student of Professor Sridhar. But Professor Sridhar himself can also be in the role of a student who was his supervisor. So his role depends on what we are talking about, what we are talking about. His supervisor was Professor Sridhar Prasad. Now we need to be, in fact, merely saying that Professor Sridhar is associated with X, Professor Sridhar is also associated with Sridhar Prasad, is inadequate in the context of retrieval to specify relations more clearly in a more explicit fashion, but which is why what is being tried, attempted in ontologies. And I have mentioned this particular thing, the presentation of results are ranking the search output in an order of decreasing relevance to the query is one of the most important requirements today, because most of you who search Google realize that for any particular query, it literally retrieves millions of documents and nobody goes beyond the first 2 pages. I'm not even sure if you go to the second page. So unless the most relevant items are. So the ranking of information, the presentation of results, or the ranking of such output is one of the most important tasks for knowledge organization in the digital era. So what is being done? The automatic extraction of category labels or assigning labels to items of information object has been attempted, of course, with different degrees of success. It's also to a very large extent dependent on the bandwidth, but luckily for us, the techniques are being continuously refined using developments in natural language processing, and a wide variety of statistical techniques. Some major innovations can be seen, for example, the search engines developed by IT companies like Google, IBM, Microsoft, etc. They have been reported some development, and as I told you, Trek has emerged as a major forum for presenting and discussing new approaches. In fact, so much so that many of the new developments, additions, features added to search engines have been from taken from Trek, development reported at Trek. A little more about Trek I will come to it later. And of course, as I said, the focus has been on complementing search, indexing with search. Indexing alone is insufficient. You need to be able to build search features that enhance indexing, complement indexing. Search engines like Google, for example, implemented as early as in 2004, it implemented latent semantic indexing method. Now, what it did was it expanded the ability of the search engine to understand synonyms. Synonyms, okay, that A and B are equivalent terms. So that was one of the things that was it was able to identify when Google, of course, developed this ability as part of its latent semantic indexing model. In 2012, Google began implementing it's known as the knowledge graph. In fact, if we talk today about ontologies are also a kind of knowledge graph. This codifies people, places, and things and the relations among them. That is something that understands real-world entities and their relationship to one another. There are very interesting examples. I would suggest that students look at some of these things, particularly there are open knowledge maps. This was founded by Peter Crager in 2015, and it's the world's largest visual search engine. I have some interesting. I went to the open knowledge map and then simply put a search term COVID-19, and then you can see what actually it retrieves. What actually it retrieves. Okay, it tells me that the knowledge map on COVID-19 is being created, and then it retrieves a complete knowledge map of this particular domain. Here you see various, sub areas within that particular broad search term that we have put. And on this side, you have got the some very important papers. You can click on these and then go to those. You can also click on any one of these and then identify. It will take you to the particular specific feature sub-facet of whatever your search term is. Now, this is one of the very important developments in building knowledge organization to to digital resources. Just continuation of that particular thing where we're talking about, and I highlighted just one of the domains, and then it gives me subdomains of those, and then articles that are related to most of these things are applicable, and then you can go into some of those. Knowledge maps are also used for visual representation of an organization's intellectual capital. For example, in a large organization like Wipro or Infosys or IBM, where there are literally tens of thousands of employees, each with a different expertise. I really do not know who knows what. I don't know, and I may be working in a particular project based in Australia, and if there is someone who has worked on a similar project, part of Infosys in Canada or somewhere, well, I need to know. So knowledge maps are being used by organizations to build, this thing here, where they are, I can look at the knowledge map of people, experts in my organization and find out if there is anyone who has expertise in the problem that I am now addressing. So knowledge maps are being ontologies, kind of thing that are being widely used. The ontologies are quite similar to, of course, they are also domain specific. We really do not have a universal ontology covering all branches of knowledge. It's very difficult to develop. But there are specific domain specific ontologies that have been developed, and in that sense, they are very similar to classification systems, SRI, etc. But then the major difference between these and conventional classification systems or SRA is that they have a much higher level of granularity. And as I told, explaining or specifying more explicitly the relationship between concepts and entities, which are not possible in a conventional SRI or conventional classification system. They're very, very limited when it comes to this. So it's possible for me to navigate when I am searching much more comfortably when I have a knowledge map like this. The automatic creation of knowledge graphs depends to a very large extent on information extraction techniques. They have evolved considerably, but we must recognize that there are limitations. There are limitations and the work is going on. Many obstacles to overcome. To some extent, some of these things have been overcome. For example, language is ambiguous. Example, Taj Mahal, the monument, Taj Mahal, the five-star hotel. So, to which are they referring? So, to some extent, the Google, etc., have tried to solve some of these problems. Many of these problems have been solved. But where we lack is in handling languages other than European languages. Text, for example, in Hindi or Kannada, I am not sure that we even have a good spell checker for some of these languages, leave alone the ability to process text in natural language. But there are problems, although there is a considerable amount of work that has gone into developing, fairly acceptable systems of extracting information, etc., for European languages. This again is one of the most important developments, IBM's natural language understanding, which is a collection of APIs that offer analysis of text through natural language processing. I looked at this some time back. There was a provision to input a text. You can just input it. Identifying categories, who are the people, what are the concepts that are related, etc. But I couldn't find it in more recent one. It asks me to register but there is a demo, all right, where in this, they look at this thing particular. This is the text which they have analyzed and shown how the natural language understanding technology that IBM has developed comes out with. See, that particular text, it was not very readable. This is the text that relates to something about IBM itself. Now, it looks at that particular text. If you input the text and then say, analyze this particular text, it comes out with identifying various entities. You see the names. See what type of entity it is. For example, director, it recognizes that it is a doctor. It's a designation. Director is a designation. Organization, IBM, etc. These are organized, so on and so forth. And also assigns the level of confidence. That means how closely associated that particular name or concept is with the text. With the text. So this indicates how closely that particular thing is associated with. So there are, developments, and then the next thing it identifies. You see, on the top you find it identifies entities, it identifies keywords, it identifies concept. It also identifies relations between two entities, two concepts, etc. What kind of relation? This particular thing was not working. That's these are the keywords that were extracted from that particular text. And then again, it talks about the degree of relevance of that particular keyword to the text from which it was actually extracted. As recently as in 2022, last year, Google Docs released an automatic summarization feature. Given a text, it comes out with an abstract. It comes out with an abstract or a summary of that particular text. The first one is that there are two kinds of summarizations. One is extraction based, which actually extracts sentences from within the text. But there is also a more intelligent one where you have an abstractive based summarization where the sentences are actually created by the system itself, the machine. So someone it reads, understands, and creates a summary of that particular text, which does not necessarily include sentences taken from that particular text. This was a very recent development. I told you some time back about the tech series of conferences, which started in 1992, co-sponsored by the US Information Technology, NIST Information Technology Retrieval Group, ITF Group. It provides the infrastructure necessary for large-scale evaluation of text retrieval methodologies. Now, what happens is that for every conference, tech conference, the NIST provides a test set of documents quite early. Quite early, it provides a test set of documents. And the people who have done research about in this particular area, they try to use their system to index those set of documents, come back to reflect and present their results. So you can identify which one of those work best. So this provides a set of documents, and participants run their own retrieval systems on the data and return a list of retrieved top ranked documents. Many of the, as I said earlier, many of the commercial search engines today include technology that was first reported and developed. This again, very interesting thing. There are several tracks. The track 22, for example, had a clinical trials track. This focused on research on the clinical trials matching problem. So if you give a summary of a patient's health, it tries to find out suitable clinical trials for that particular patient. That's kind of work that is being reported in this particular thing. There are also many other tags. These are just two that I noted. This focuses on researching document retrieval and passage retrieval. The full impact of natural language processing techniques on automatic classification and category creation is still not very clear. But we do realize that there has been considerable progress in named entity recognition, part of speech tagging, DOS, as they call it, etc. There's been a lot of progress, and this is something that is continuing. There is no alternative, as I said. We will have to depend on machines. So what will happen in future? Specialized information retrieval situations requiring high precision will most likely adopt new technologies like ontology for knowledge retrieval. This is something which will work in a very limited domain, as I told you. Infosys, yes, it will work. A particular University of Mysore can build an ontology for the University of Mysore. if there are 1,000 faculty members who specializes in what, etc., you can build a very comprehensive ontology for the University of Mysore. On a kind of narrative, but well within a limited domain. This also will continue to be increasingly user-generated metadata, like folks on some of the more recent library management systems like Koha, for example, allow end user to assign folks summaries. Author-generated metadata will be increasingly relied upon for index. Some people have suggested that knowledge organization systems such as SRI today, but as I said, use of traditional classification systems, knowledge organization will be largely be restricted to libraries and outside in the digital world, these things will simply not work. Does it mean that we do not have any role for traditional knowledge organization system? No, I do not really mean this. Like, for example, if we build an ontology for an organization like University of Mysore or the Krishna Rajendra Hospital in Mysore, it will be very useful to frame information extraction out based on a thesaurus or a taxonomy, so that the output, the result will be very, very homogeneous. So they do have a role even in the present day digital era, but for large scale indexing to handle information overload, certainly these systems will not work any longer. They will be limited to libraries and archives and similar kinds of institutions. So we must have a much broader definition of knowledge organization today. We must consider knowledge organization in relation to all possible alternative approaches, irrespective within the LIS domain or outside, especially by the computer science and natural language processing groups, and so on and so forth. Knowledge organization, for the sake of it, knowledge organization is a myth. The basic units of organization are concepts, semantic relation. So this will should remain a focus for the information professional. So we must be prepared to embrace knowledge organization in its broadest sense, irrespective of whether it comes from within the discipline or outside. Thank you very much.
We can have the question after Vice Chancellor speaks, because he has to leave.
This is start with 12:30 and late by 1:30 afternoon. It's okay. Because between Professor Nathan's and my work, I thought this is far better when compared to that. But let me ask you, I think brought up certain issues. I got three important concerns. Particularly in the context of the libraries and what is this? Yeah. Given the fact that the digital library has brought a paradigm shift, as Pun argues about it. The paradigm shift has taken place over the years, right from the beginning. The one question quite often one can ask is that where is the knowledge beginning with the classical period? What is, whether that was hidden in the communities, was it hidden in the temples or pathshalas, was it hidden in the libraries? the concept of libraries, I believe in the Indian context was late when compared to the Western world. And the libraries were the target of the attack. Remember that. I think there are three important libraries. One is the Alexandria Library during the time of Ptolemy III. It was burned down. It was burned down, the total number of books, even though it's counted in terms of the scrolls, nearly 45,000 scrolls, which comes to around 1 lakh books, were burned down. Why that was burned down? That's one fundamental question one can ask. Was it because it was a repository of the knowledge? Or was it just because it was a repository of the power? There are a huge number of literary works that came out from that library. Literature was a power. It is not only the social power, but also the political power. And that's the reason why it was destroyed again and again. I think even the time of Julius Caesar, this was also destroyed. The third time was the Ptolemy IV, it was also again destroyed. Second library was, I think, the Nalanda. Nalanda library was destroyed. There are two versions about it. One is the invading army. The second was its exposition to the sun rays. The second argument is, if you read the whole text or the arguments, they were literally, very strong. The third was, I think it was in Germany. I don't remember other parts of the library, whatever it be. Knowledge was not only in the library, but also in the, there are times, right, why there is a history also with regard to Amrapali and Buddha. Why Buddha would be able to consume flesh rather than giving it to Amrapali, because Amrapali was carrying the knowledge of the Buddhism. He wanted to preserve the knowledge. That was the thing, even if you look at the Lingayat movement also. You remember now also the palm leaf, they are all stuck in different houses. The knowledge is not in the library, it is spread across the different communities. But in the digital world, there's a paradigm shift. The knowledge, locating in the what's called the communities, then in the libraries. Now suddenly it's moved to the digital world. There are three fundamental questions that I would like to raise. And the 6 important issues that one can talk about, but I'm not going to explain in detail because given the paucity of my time. The fundamental question is that will the libraries, physical libraries, the physical structure where you accumulate, where you catalog, classify, reclassify, index, books, will disappear. Will the libraries disappear in the context of the digital world? Knowing very well that library is the repositories of the knowledge, repositories of the power, repositories of the cultural practices. It also creates a binary opposition. Remember when Macaulay talked about the Indian knowledge system, what he said was that the whole Indian knowledge system is equivalent to the one shelf of the library of the European world. You reduce the whole knowledge to a library's shelf. Can you imagine? This is the reason why I'm talking about a kind of narrative that is constructed. These are the third world countries, these are the colonized countries. India was not an exception, sorry, the colonies were not an exception. They also constructed this. Dismissing your knowledge, dismissing your library, dismissing your text, dismissing your classification, dismissing your history, all these things they read. And to classify the the Indian history into three categories, like the JSM did. Let me not get into that one. Will this library disappear? That's one fundamental question. This question has to be answered by the librarians here. Because this is a question of your life and death also. It's not simply, oh, issue. The second important thing is that will this library, will the digital library accommodate the traditional knowledge system as such? And given the fact that traditional knowledge has been seen as a condemned product, seen as the outdated product, is seen as non-relevant issues or the non-relevant text. This is the reason why we need to understand whether these libraries could able to create, could able to generate or to retain the same knowledge system as such or not. There's a second question that I would like to raise. Yeah, well, whether this knowledge system coexists with the other knowledge system as such. For example, every knowledge system, will it coexist with the biodiversity knowledge system, or a knowledge system which exists outside the realm of the abilities? These are the three fundamental questions that I thought I should raise. But at the same time, there are 6 issues that we can focus on. One is that the digital recognized argument. One is that it has created the condition for the fluidity of the knowledge, or the flexibility of knowledge. Knowledge cannot be now, you cannot stick to one particular place. For example, the knowledge revolves around the world immediately without the loss of time. For example, you can access the library of United States of California University, and then immediately you can access the library of London or then the Mysore Institute, except archival materials in Karnataka, till they are not given access to us. The National Archives also can access. So there is a fluidity of it, and the flexibility of the knowledge roaming around. And the second is that, second important characteristic that it collapses what is called the time and space. Yeah, remember, time and space are two entities, two issues that have to be debated. It constricts the time and space. It bridges time and space. It conquers. Time and space becomes, one and the same, almost. Within seconds, you can move anywhere. See, earlier, to get a knowledge, to get a archival material, it took not less than 6 months to 1 year. You have to apply to the National Archives, archives. Apply for 10 or 15 days. I remember I went to Russia. I asked for some documents pertaining to MN Roy. They said that we have to wait for 1 month to get one copy and 1,000 rupees Indian currency. For photocopy, 1 page. National Archives, they also said that you come after 1 week. The gap between the time and space was very, very high. Now that is completely destroyed. The only important thing is that it has, as Dr. said, it has destroyed the hierarchy. Earlier, if anybody wants to have a knowledge system, wants to go to the library, it is not allowed. It's not permissible. Like you want to enter into the Nalanda, you need to pass not less than 64 examinations. It was not so easy. To get the access to the library, no, it's not. Just see in the university. Is it, whether this library is allowing the common man to enter here? No. A poor man who is aspiring for the IAS, will he be allowed here? Not that I'm criticizing, but it's a fact. There's a hierarchy in terms of knowledge. And some of the libraries are basically catering to the needs of some other classes. It's a class bias. That's something that is in hierarchy. Without that, hierarchy has collapsed. Whoever has the knowledge of the globalization, knowledge of the new technology, can enter into the digital library. And one important problem, the fourth important characteristic is that it has destroyed your privacy. The digital library has destroyed your privacy. It has entered your not only home but also your bedroom. So your privacy has been completely destroyed. You can watch anything anywhere. It's like during the time of the COVID, the class disappeared. The concept of the physical class disappeared. It moved to the trees. It moved to the plants. Trees, or even to the river. You can have the classrooms anywhere under the sun. Similarly, every digital library has collapsed that notion of particular fixed, what's called the area. And but the dangerous aspect is that it destroys your privacy. It enters. And most important thing that it gives accessibility to everybody. Irrespective of your caste, community, social structure, social life, and all these things, it doesn't bother about it. It is open space. I would call the digital library as an open space, not a closed space. And in that open space, the interaction, communication, and environment is allowed. That space can be occupied by anybody. And the space is not closed. Even thousands and thousands of people enter into that space, the space still remains. It's a vacant space also. It's a space which is available for everybody who can enter into and can exit at any point of time. There is no concept of time in the digital library. You can access any time in the day or the night. That's the reason why I'm saying that the concept of time has completely collapsed. Time in terms of the particular period, time in terms of the particular moment, it has collapsed. I think, and the last one is that I think I've told you about that, when the hierarchy, social hierarchy, I'm little concerned about the social hierarchy. And I think I can add one more, the cultural homogeneity of the cultural appropriation that has been destroyed by this digital library. But the three questions remain. In the midst of one side you have the physical library, other side you have the digital library. Can they coexist simultaneously? One question that he raised is about the knowledge capital. Is it possible to convert the digital library into a knowledge capital in a fixed structure, like my students library? Is it possible? We talk about what is called the social capital. Social capital is the connecting people and trying to create the larger social relations. But knowledge capital is completely different. Can the physical libraries create this knowledge system, knowledge capital? I think we need to convert these libraries into the knowledge capital. And I hope that the Mysore City Library will convert this library into a knowledge capital. I am glad that I could be able to write a book, which I just finished. It's a lengthiest book with 1,60,000 words using these digital libraries. And thanks to COVID also. COVID gave me the required time to sit back and write to have the next text, two books, are the product of the COVID as well as the digital library. I hope I'm glad that every year they are organizing this endowment I remember Sana Gopal visited here, delivered the lecture, and Murray also came. Library science is doing a wonderful work. I hope all the students will benefit out of this endowment lecture. Thanks to sir for a wonderful lecture. I hope that will be the inspiration for the young generation. And I hope they will cultivate to understand the users and the benefits that the digital knowledge is the knowledge organization provides for them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
We can take one or two questions. So that the formalities will be complete. Yes, please.
I have a couple of questions, but since it's already limited to two, I'll just ask one question. I don't know whether you have tried ChatGPT. I have tried to develop tried to question that to give me the ontologies for different words. It does a pretty good job. Okay. The one it does a pretty good job. When you ask like an ontology of something like the rice, you even mentioned about the synonyms itself. It takes into consideration that and gives me a subclass of that, and not only a hierarchical relation, but also gives me certain associated, like how it can be used. Let's say if you take a camel, it says this, transportation, this, that, etc., and in different conditions. The point I'm trying to make here is the ontologies will continue to be very important, especially more so in a what I mean is non-human is computer world, because everything is about the predetermined structures. So knowledge organization will dominate much more than what it was before, especially in the context of AI. That's all I want to say. The question is whether how much of the LA's profession is involved or not is a different. But KOIs, and it is already, like whether it is in the large LLMs or large language models that are behind this generative text or anything, even including for that matter, even you mentioned about, say, for example, Indian languages, Hindi or Kannada, you will find that Google Translate is pretty decent and it is kind of instant. You don't even have to ask. For example, ask for a recipe of whatever, and because it's an Indian dish that I asked for, let us say paneer masala, it gives me, assuming that it is Hindi, then immediately it gives me in Hindi without asking. I don't have to ask that, you have to give me recipe in Hindi or English or Kannada. Within a matter of few minutes, it understands the grammar, this and it gives me. So the point is translation, or rather I would say, even non-European languages, issues are also pretty decently addressed. So knowledge of, I mean, let's come to the point of knowledge organization system, they're pretty advanced. They have to be because otherwise AI doesn't. It is working, but it's happening, as you mentioned about knowledge graph. All of these things are there. For example, if you take even Wikipedia, is one of the still the most, I mean, I would say comes the top 5 of the any knowledge system. It's pretty well organized. And behind that, there is a system. Behind that, in fact, behind Google's knowledge graph, is also Wikipedia's knowledge. That's the point I want to say. I wouldn't agree with you when you say that, you know, I mean, I don't agree with the even binary of traditional and non-traditional, because everything is evolving. There is nothing like traditional knowledge organization system, because the current knowledge organization systems are derived. Whether you call them modern or whatever, they are organized. Both from the, as I said, hierarchical knowledge organization, associating knowledge organization, as well as even citation kind of, bibliometric knowledge.
Fine, as long as you, I did, differentiate between these two purely for the sake of this particular, talk. I mean, if you assume that, there is no such distinction that we have to make between traditional knowledge organization systems and the kinds of knowledge organization systems that are being developed to handle information overload, information in the digital era. Yes, I fully agree with you. But then for this, I wanted to draw a line between these two primarily for the, like, look at library classification systems like UDC, UE or universal decimal classification or column classification or library. Now, these are the things that I refer to as traditional knowledge organization systems. It's purely for the sake of, I mean, there is a base, yes, the base of library classification systems, what was developed in the 19th, 20th century. Now, those things serve as the base. In fact, I did mention that even when you think of information extraction, automatic information extraction, for automatic knowledge extraction, information extraction, for building ontologies in an organization, it will be a lot more homogeneous if it is based on a conventional system. I use the term conventional, traditional knowledge organization systems to refer to those systems that are still being used in conventional libraries. Okay, that's all. I mean, I fully agree with you that that knowledge organization systems are essential. But what kind of knowledge organization systems that we are talking about? It's not the same as the ones that we did develop and adopt in libraries, but something which is much more flexible, much more powerful in terms of recognizing entities and relationship between entities and so on and so forth. Those things are the basis.
I'm little confused about the word knowledge organization. If you are talking in the context of library, I agree with you. Let us say I can walk with the entire library keeping in my pocket. Now it's possible. With the pen drive, I can take the entire. Can you call me as a knowledgeable person because I'm working with the library? This knowledge is a very complex thing, according to me. If you are restricting only to a library site, fine. Otherwise, I think I do not know. For the last 30 years, I have little knowledge in computer science, but I do not know how to organize my knowledge. That little bit experience that I have. This is the confusion that I have.
I'm not really very clear about what the question is.
So the knowledge, like we say, he's a knowledgeable person. Okay. When we say he's a knowledgeable person, it's based on his experience that he has gained in the domain. Here, when it comes to classification, it is organizing hierarchically or in any way that we can retrieve the information very fast. Am I correct? Now, can I organize my knowledge so that I can retrieve it very fast?
That's the thing, that's the kind of thing, that is what we practice in management within organization. They try to capture the knowledge of individual experts within the organization because it resides in your mind. It's not easily accessible to others. So what they try to do is they try to capture this knowledge and then make it accessible to they try to make it accessible to others by way of what we today call as knowledge management systems. But to conduct again, you need knowledge organization systems. You need knowledge other. Because those systems are those that are being used in libraries or something more like what Professor Chani said. It's extended. Today we are talking about organizing knowledge organization in the context of a large depository of knowledge. Take, for example, or something like that. So we are talking about not just but it is important in the sense that if we are talking about enterprise knowledge, take University of Mysore. University of Mysore as an organization unlocked knowledge resides in the minds of the research scholars who are employees working in the University of Mysore. Now, if I can capture that and make it searchable and retrievable, then I need some kind of a knowledge organization system. So what is your expertise? I need to be able to label those things. These are if you are an expert in artificial intelligence, you are expert in natural language processing, you are expert in R programming, etc. I need to be able to label those things so that when someone looks for an expert in R programming, they will be able to get a link to you. That's where the knowledge organization systems come into play.
Thank you, Dr. P.S. Raghavan, for giving us valuable insights on knowledge organization in digital area. Dr. M.H. Sridhar, Professor, Department of Studies and Statistics, Masters at the University of Mysore, will now address the gathering.
Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I really don't know what I'm doing. Dr. Raghavan put in his last slide, but things are not clear. Same thing with me, I don't know why Harina has called me here to be the chief guest, being a person from the field of physics. What I could glean from Dark's is basically the organization of data, retrieval, and from that gleaning the knowledge. So, and in different ways it is to be done, the traditional way, and on the basis of which different methods are involved and all. So what I found interesting was, I'm a bit interested in software and all. In one of the softwares that I use, many of the applications that I was using had these so-called tags to classify them. So digging deeper into that tag, the so-called Debian system in depth tags, I landed up on Ranganathan's page. So the so-called column classification or presented classification and all. It was quite interesting that you were also mentioning him. So in the presented classification and all. And what also interested me is this text-based archival and retrieval, which as a crystallographer is quite interesting because one of the biggest databases, cryptographic databases in the world is the Cambridge Structural Database, which uses the so-called star format, which is self-extracting text archival and retrieval. So quite a lot of things that I was looking at, and you also mentioned something about spell checkers for Indic languages, and we have a big problem there. So Professor Shalini was mentioning that gives you instantaneously about the paneer masala recipe in Hindi. I think it mostly happens because it guesses your IP rather than knowing about who you are. So it's mostly geolocation rather than, okay, the geolocation is a knowledge base. Geolocation is a knowledge base, but when it comes to this dictionary, we still have a problem because when I do a dictionary search for an English word, even if I spell it wrongly, I can get an approximate suggestions. And this is very, very difficult. Now, let us say I haven't seen anything for Indian. So, yes.
There is no concept of the spelling for an English, I mean, not for Indian language.
No,
Exactly as much.
no, that's right. And we also have this problem of, conjugations. You mix two words and write them. So the correct spelling and things like, and suggestions to nearby, that's a big problem. So building a spell checker for our documents or for our scripts would be a Herculean task. And if somebody really does it, it would be wonderful. No, recently I have come across one dictionary which is open source, which is called Alert. So they have some sort of a mechanism, but it is again manual, not automatic. So every dictionary entry is given some sort of a code. So plus or minus under the suggestions are made. So, but not very popular and not very effective. It's not automated. So these are the things that I mentioned, and I would like to add some comment about what Professor Asadi just said about the hierarchy and the accessibility to the information. So Wikipedia is one thing where it was democratized everything. So it was nice. We have access to all sorts of information at our fingertips without the need to go through the so-called proper channels and involving a lot of financial and other issues. So it was very illuminating, sir, and I would like to thank Professor Harinaran and his colleagues for giving me the opportunity to be here. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ramesh Sridhar, for your words of wisdom. I sincerely invite Shri N.V. Satyanarayana, Chairman and Managing Director, Informatics India Limited, our guest of honor, to reflect on the endowment lecture.
So Raghavan, my favorite teacher, who was our teacher when I did my life history in India. Lakshmita, in the board of physics. The place where I wanted to land in when I came to the university for finding a seat, like for shortage of 6 marks and positions. Mr. Ranga, right? Lakshmita, right? All the faculty members, students. I'm standing before you as an alumnus of this university, passed out in 1971.
72.
Sorry, 72. 71, 72, more or less 71. So it was, the department was still the department of life in science. So I think a couple of years after that, it became the department of life in science.
We have added more studies or studies in like information science. So in these 50 years, a lot has happened. And everything else in the world, libraries also have changed. So library science is a nice tag. Information. And let us expand its scope and outreach. How much of it is exploited when by the LIS group? From a global perspective is always a question. In fact, the subject this time you choose for this is very interesting. And I'm particularly happy that this lecture, the 15th one is delivered by Mr. Raghavan, as I said, who was a teacher. And in those days, he was one of the youngest teacher. And we almost, we became more friends than the student relationship. Student-teacher relationship really collapsed over a period of time. So much so we have become family friends. So I'm so happy that Karina and went to deliver this lecture. And more than anything, Raghavan is an expert in the Mumbai knowledge organization we spoke about. I really enjoyed this lecture. And knowledge organization is fundamental to libraries, functions, and activities. And when you talk about library and information science, I think it expands scope. In some way, this discipline of LIS has got itself between in a triangle of libraries, computational science, and domain, any other sciences in this triangle. Like actually, that just now mentioned about the Cambridge database. Or any study that you can take the example of this domain or life sciences domain, biosciences domain. You have computational biology for managing a lot of information bioscientists need. You have bio then managing the information. Now, someone has to organize the information to be into the computer. That was a fundamental thinking itself. And as Raghavan said, the volume of information, whether it is library-centric information, what I mean, a lot of scholarly information, the academic world, and the public interest information, and other libraries, public libraries, or whatnot. Largely what is published and copyrighted. And a lot of it could be uncopyrighted. There's a lot of other stuff. These days, the scope has vastly expanded. And when you talk about the library, it is largely what is attempted. Where someone owns the ownership. In fact, the Vice Chancellor talked about the knowledge system, he expressed that down. He felt that the digital libraries have no privacy. Now, by very definition, immediately the definition of digital library, like the libraries, traditional libraries, digital libraries protect privacy of the user as well as protect the ownership interest of the creators.
That's very fundamental to digital library. That distinction was national. All the websites on the internet are certainly not digital. So we talk about knowledge organization, we are talking about a lot of knowledge. As what you generally call network knowledge, which has the ownership. And take it to the other domain we spoke about. The enterprise content, which a lot of every organization, be it a university or an industry, every organization has a lot of content. For some, it could be knowledge capital. For some others, it could be more than a knowledge, it could be competitive. You can call it by different names. And even there, when companies have a lot of enterprise information, the company has ownership. So that's a different kind of library. But knowledge organization is very fundamental and essential here. And in fact, these days, the traditional classification and the need to automate classification is more extensively used in enterprise content management than the libraries. Maybe there in classification system, other into their need. Like tomorrow, if you want to have a at the restaurant or study, if you want to create a capital, knowledge capital or a university, knowledge content. Obviously, you have a new classification system, not necessarily use a library classification system. In fact, the library classification system that are all, it still has a kind of a, it has gotten to a kind of a dichotomy in the library and practice. What has happened, the library classification system we use as a knowledge organization of library content is largely driven by your classification system. But when it comes to users, they use largely, they are driven by the curriculum system. So what the libraries did in the recent years, they evolved parallelly another system, built subject lines. Now, what you have in libraries today, you have two different sets of knowledge organizations in a way. From something, I think, parallel to the curricular system, like you have the departments, schools, subjects for different semesters and whatnot. So, what I'm trying to say is that by every system of knowledge, which was knowledge, I think it's fundamental. Today, Raghavan said, and it's so much true today, it's simply impossible to organize knowledge language. And the knowledge itself is more digital because content is born today and managed by machines. So now it has a situation that's created today. Whoever is engaged today, you are all engaged in knowledge organization today. When you go back to your schools, place of work, when you find a job or something, maybe already having a job. You get a job of knowledge organization. The content is digital, depending on what kind of content you are going to yes. So that being the situation today, the massive content being so that content being important in the whole process of knowledge organization is computational. So the tools of knowledge organizations are also changing depending on the kind of technology you apply. There is one school of thought when it comes to using machine learning approach. We don't need what you call ontological approach. Earlier schools always wait when you build knowledge graphs. They all use some ontology for a takeoff. Now, what you build knowledge graph, you don't need ontologies, and you expand on that. That's another school of thought. So what I'm trying to say is the changes in technology, changes in the kind and volume of information. The whole area is changing so much. At the end of the day, now this cognitive information. The way you want to manage, at the end of the day, you want to end up to manage it, organize it, the way your brain organizes. So when you are reaching the top level, now the library and information science, where now library is not just a knowledge, just document specific. When you talk about library, it could be library of any kind of knowledge objects, not necessarily your yesterday's books and journals. It could be object of species, botanical species, whatever other species, wild species, like what you said, Cambridge, histology database. It could be about people, places, and whatnot. Now, if you give today anything on the, I want to know something on the articles on machine learning applications in libraries, you end up getting only about a literature on 5,000 dollars because you have a library of all the programming languages. So the very concept of library has completely changed. So when it comes to managing now, it is now completely the organizing and managing knowledge, including delivering, is a computation process. Now, in this context, when I also look back on our annual lecture series we created, at that time we envisioned that we need to bring in to focus the value of library information science as a collaborative institution or a center in any university with other domain specific department as well as computational science. In effect today, if the university were to start a school of information as a kind of cluster, the libraries, LI school and the school of computation sciences is calling to one. Like ICMED already created a footprint. That was a standalone institution at the time. But those footprints can still be used to create an entirely new kind of an ecosystem where the LIS and computation sciences group together, call it whatever name you want. And NEP gives an excellent opportunity to do. As boundaries are removed, flexibility is introduced. So there are a lot more new opportunities in that sense, where library and information science, LIS school can, by collaborating with the School of Computer Science, can really expand itself in a different way. There is always a fear of the moment you dilute to a stand of LIS as a single standalone department, your jobs will disappear. I don't think job, let me say you are a knowledge organizer, knowledge manager, you can change your destination. I believe in the Maharashtra. The Maharashtra government has passed some kind of a rule or ordinance, whatever we call it, all the library school, librarians in university from the are redesignated as knowledge. So that also gives, in effect, so the new word, the new name will happen, the new voters. And so with this, in fact, in the last lecture series organized, I think that was before COVID, we proposed to the university that henceforth this program, this lecture should be organized as a joint activity with the School of library information science and computational sciences. It was also accepted at the time, but still it has not happened. So I hope Vice Chancellor is not here and some of the faculty members and from the computational sciences are here. For the benefits of both the school, I'm sure, and for the overall benefit of the university. Because information and information science is, in a way, you asked a question about organizing your own information. It is information science is in some way internalized into every discipline. Every discipline. And so much so today, computational science is getting internalized. But they still remain as standalone functions also. They have their own space also. So in a way, always working together. It is a great opportunity in the years ahead. With this, I would like to thank, in fact, I must admire and express my very high appreciation to the department for almost regularly organizing this event, started in 2001. So we have organized over 15, this is the 15th one, 16th one, sorry. And I hope, and what I see is its benefit, although in the past we had people from different domains, its benefit is somehow reaching only to realize, but that has to change. I hope that it will change in the future, which we have also communicated with the university authorities. And thank you very much again, my dear Layas, for organizing this event regularly. See you again.
Thank you so much, sir, for your reflections. Dr. M. Chandrasekhara, Professor, Department of Studies in Library and Information Science, University of Mysore, will convey thanks to all the dignitaries and guests.
Okay, very good afternoon to all. Very nice. It gives me a great honor and opportunity to propose vote of thanks in this memorable event. First and foremost, I thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Osaka M. Asadi, for spending his valuable time and delivering a presidential address. On his absence, I thank him. Today's icon speaker is Professor K.S. Raghavan, sir. He has delivered an excellent, informative 16th Endowment lecture on digital libraries. He has highlighted many issues relating to knowledge organization. On behalf of our university, department, and my personal behalf, I wholeheartedly welcome Professor K.S. Raghavan, sir. I request our chairman, Professor D.N.S. Harinarayana, to hand over a memento to the guest speaker, Professor K.S. Raghavan. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I thank our chief guest for today's program, Professor M.A. Sridhar, is our department well-wisher too, for accepting our invitation and part of this program. Thank you very much, sir. I request our chairman to hand over a memento to him. I also thank our special guests, one of our alumnus, and Sri N.V. Satyanarayana sir, for instituting this endowment lecture. Because of him, we are this every year we are organizing this type of endowment lecture, and this is one of the great opportunity given by our alumnus, very well known. I mean, this friend of the department, Sri N.V. Satyanarayana sir, and he has delivered very good lecture also. Thank you very much, sir. I request our chairman to hand over memento to him. The man behind the success of this program is our chairman, Professor N.S. Harinarayan sir. On behalf of all, I thank Professor N.S. Harinarayan sir in this program. I extremely thank the many invitees and well-wishers of our department and good hearts, Professor Shalini R. Aras, Professor Kaisar Jahan Begum, Professor Suresh, Professor Nagen Swami, Professor Hamsaveni, Dr. Prakash, Mr. Muhammad Vinas, Dr. Arokya Meri, and many others dignitaries for their presence in this particular program. I wholeheartedly welcome each one in this program. Thank you very much. I thank media friends for evincing interest in covering the event. They are always this coming to the department and nicely giving the coverage of all the programs. I thankful to them. I thank Ms. Anisa T. Hebbar for a nice invocation. Thank you, Anisha. Yes. My special thanks to and also gratitude to all our teaching faculty, Professor Senior Faculty, Professor Malina Kumbar ji, and Dr. Professor Aditya Kumari, Dr. Sunil Kumar Yam, Dr. B. Nivedita, non-teaching staff, and our research scholars and beloved students. They have spared their valuable time and worked hard for the success of this particular program. I wholeheartedly thank each one in this program. Finally, this ICD, our ICD team always supporting. I thank the ICD director, Professor Mahesh, and the ICD team, technical team, particularly Mr. Sashank and Mr. Milan for their nice coverage of this program. And you can see that program live, this UOM live. There you can anytime you can. So they have covered nicely. I wholeheartedly thank the ICT team. Once again, I thank you all for your presence and attention in this particular program. Thank you all.